Of course, the Republican National Convention set to begin tonight in Milwaukee. You heard Bill O'Reilly talk about it this morning on his morning update. Usually these things are very boring and tedious, but based on what happened on Saturday, the near assassination of Donald Trump, this thing takes on a whole new meaning. Bill O'Reilly's new book as well, Confronting the Presidents, coming out in September. We'll talk about that this morning on KCMO. Bill, as an American, where has your mind been at the last 36 hours?
Well, we did a special report on Saturday night about the shooting and why the situation in America is so chaotic. Got about 4 million views on that, Mundo. And we're at the level now where we're reaching as many people as any cable news program on television. Took me 7 years, but we're there now.
Mm-hmm.
And the central theme of the special was that there are American corporations paying for hatred, and we named them. Comcast, NBC. You may have noted that they yanked Morning Joe off the air this morning.
Yes.
Okay? Well, it's a hate fest, Morning Joe. That's what it is. The View, ABC News. That's Disney. What is that? What is that program? Everybody knows. CNN. Now, interestingly enough, CNN has moderated a little bit under this new CEO, this British guy, Thompson. But it destroyed its entire brand and is now the worst-rated national television program you can possibly find in prime time because of all the hatred that CNN spewed for all those years. So my analysis is that Americans, if you want to do something, if you care, and many don't, many actually like all the hatred, you can write directly to Comcast, that's in Philadelphia, NBC, Disney in L.A., Bob Iger is the CEO, Comcast, a guy named Roberts. You can write to CNN. Thompson is the CEO. And you can tell them to knock it off.
Mm-hmm.
But even better, you can not watch that stuff. So this could, if Americans get involved, lead to an improvement in our culture. And that's what I'm aiming to do on the No Spin News and BillO'Reilly.com.
Yeah, you dropped that video, Bill, on BillO'Reilly.com at about, I think it was 9 or 10 o'clock on Saturday. You mentioned Comcast. Do you think there's an awakening there in the ranks with Morning Joe not being on the air today? Or is it just very temporary to try to get through this moment without somebody saying something incredibly dangerous or dumb on the program?
Well, it's fear. There's never been an awakening in corporate America ever since Teddy Roosevelt busted the trusts. These people are in business to make money. They don't really care how they make it. And hate sells. You can make money off hate. So that's what they do. They knew what they were doing. Are you kidding, Mundo? They knew what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
A 5-year-old knows what they're doing. So now they're afraid because it's led to this catastrophic event in Pennsylvania. That's why they're pulling aside. Some conscious change. They're scared because their butts are in the sling now. You know, the peasants in Bavaria may be climbing a hill to get them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it's all about.
What do you think, Bill O'Reilly, Donald Trump's approach will be, should be? He says he's ripped up his speech. He says it will be a unifying speech. What can Donald Trump do in the wake of this near assassination on Saturday night?
Well, first of all, it's a very smart play. So both Biden and Trump should, number one, admit mistakes, personal mistakes. Now, neither man has ever done that, so I'm not expecting that to happen. All right, both of them are narcissistic in that regard. They will not admit a mistake, ever. And I mean, I've traced them both. I can't find one time where either of those men admitted a mistake. Isn't that incredible?
Mm.
But if it were me, I'd go out on Thursday night and I would say to the crew, look, I almost lost my life. It came within a quarter of an inch of blowing my head off. And I want now peace in this country. And I am going to acknowledge that sometimes I went overboard and said things I should not have said, and we are going to try to stop that now. I'll make mistakes, but my focus is on issues, fact-based issues, what I can do for the country, and I'm not going to shy away from describing what my opponent is doing to the country. I'm not going to do that, but I'm not going to do the personal stuff. Trump did that, he'd win. They win the election because Biden's incapable of doing that. Biden couldn't put that together. You saw it last night. He was very, what he said, nobody would remember a word of what he said.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the tone was conciliatory, okay, but he didn't say anything dramatic, and he's incapable of that. So Trump could get way out in front of this and win over a number of independent votes. So if he does that, he wins. That's as simple as that's my analysis. Mm-hmm. He wins if he does it.
Knowing Trump as you have for, 30, 35 years, Bill O'Reilly on 95.7 FM KCMO, how surprised were you by his initial reaction in the wake of nearly being killed?
I thought Donald Trump reacted the way any human being would react. Okay? You're consumed by emotion and shock. So there's no rationality to it. Some people panic. Some people cry. I've been in war zones, Mundo. You know that. I've seen it. And it's a different reaction all across the board. Trump was angry that this happened. He was defiant that it happened. And he acted appropriately. I don't think there was one thing he did that was inappropriate after that shooting.
What's the thing, Bill O'Reilly, when you look at the investigation still to come on the Secret Service, FBI, what's the biggest question that you have right now in the breakdown of security?
I don't have any questions because that's not my purview. If I'm President Biden, because he controls the Secret Service is attached to the executive branch of government. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I fire everybody. All the hierarchy goes. All the people who were in charge of setting up the security in Pennsylvania, they all go. Everybody's fired across the board. It's a gross failure. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
They're gone, and I get the best experts that I can get to come in and replace them.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. You can't do that. So we Americans love to assign blame and point fingers, and they shouldn't have done that, and the local cop should have done this. That's all BS. Okay? The agency failed. When you have failure at that level, you replace the people in charge, and that's what will happen. This woman, Kimberly Cheadle, she's gone. They can't keep her. You can't have that kind of a failure. And it was. There's no excuse for not securing buildings around a site where a presidential candidate is speaking. None. You secure every blanking building.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Do you think, Bill, when it comes to Joe Biden, I mean, does the party back off this replacement deal now? Does he, in a weird way, actually get help by this and locking up the nomination?
Well, that's an interesting question. So I was hours away from dropping a column on Saturday night about what was happening in the White House and in the Democratic Party vis-a-vis getting Biden off the ticket. I'm going to post that column tomorrow to see, look, this column was coming, but I couldn't run it because of the Trump shooting. But here's what was going on hours before Donald Trump was shot. Now, all of that is on hold because you can't get into partisan politics in a national emergency. This is a national emergency. So everything stops. But the sentiment that Biden can't run the country doesn't stop. And so Democrats are going to revisit that, and they have time to do it. It's not like Biden says, oh, now I got the nomination locked. No. And other things are going to happen with Biden. See, this is the ongoing theme. You know, you follow me. You were on BillO'Reilly.com. How many times did I say, beginning in January of this year, big things were going to happen?
You said it before anyone else.
Yeah. I said, look, you're going to have major events that are going to happen. Well, we've had two, a debate meltdown and an attempted assassination of Donald Trump. You're going to have another one. Something, as they call it, an October surprise, but I think it's going to happen before October. All right. Now, I don't know what it is. I didn't know. I wasn't guessing. I'm just going to say, I'm told my audience that something big was going to happen, and now two big things have happened, and I think there will be a third.
Yeah. Well, Bill, I know confronting the president's no-spin assessments from Washington to Biden is coming out here in September. Is there a moment in time that you think back to based on what we're living through right now? Is there anything that this compares to as you went through writing that book of all the presidents to where we are today?
The closest thing is the assassination attempt on Teddy Roosevelt in 1912 in Milwaukee, of all places. How ironic is that?
Wow.
Where it's giving a speech and the guy shoots him in the chest. And the only reason he's not dead is because he had the 50-page speech in his coat. And the bullet couldn't get through it. That was eerie. It's the same thing. And now everybody's asking me, well, what if Donald Trump were killed? What would have happened? Well, this week, the delegates and superdelegates in Milwaukee would have chosen someone to take Trump's place if he was incapacitated or dead. That's how the system works. And, you know, it's frightening because history does repeat itself. One of the reasons I wrote Confronting the Presidents was because of this presidential race in 24. And when you see, you know, the hate parallels, I mean, Trump isn't the most hated president of all time. That was Abraham Lincoln. What happened to Lincoln?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Trump is second, Andrew Jackson third. And the hatred against those three individuals, staggering. So this isn't unique, what we're going through here. And if people know their history, they can better able to put it into perspective, because this is this assassination attempt has changed America. And that's not hyperbole. And everybody should go and watch my program tonight, because I'm way ahead of these stories. You know, while everybody else is still reacting, I'm ahead. I'm looking now what's next. Because the reaction is, okay, that's horrible. And everybody's lamenting how horrible it is. Do I want to sit there for an hour and listen to that? No. Most of them are phonies. They couldn't care less. They're just saying what they think is going to put them in a good light. I'm not assigning that to Biden, by the way. I think Biden probably understands that we can't have this kind of a system. And if Trump has indeed experienced an epiphany, that would be a good thing. But for me as a journalist, I got to tell you what's happening next, what's going to come. And I've been remarkably accurate in that.
What's that little tease before we let you go, Bill O'Reilly? What's that tease tonight for BillO'Reilly.com as you move this story forward? You're right. It's reactionary mode. As you move this story forward tonight, what should the average Kansas Citian be watching for today as we move ahead through this news cycle?
Well, you should write a letter or an email to Comcast in Philadelphia, Disney in Los Angeles, and CNN in New York, and tell them to knock it off. Every American should do that. I'm not calling for a boycott. I'm not calling for anybody to be directly fired. I'm calling for the American people to stand up and do something positive. These television news agencies have paid haters for years. There is no excuse for The View. None. That's my message.
Bill O'Reilly, watch him tonight. Premium membership is well worth your time. BillO'Reilly.com. The book is coming out in September. confronting the president's no-spin assessments from Washington to Biden. Bill, thanks as always for being here on KCMO, especially given the historic nature of this news cycle. We so appreciate the time.
Okay, Mundo. Thanks for having me in.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. That is Bill O'Reilly on KCMO 95.7 FM, streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app.